If you're ever watching us during a major event, we're not alone in this endeavor. The National Weather Service in Memphis works around the clock, rain or shine, every day of the year. And during the April 2nd outbreak, they were monitoring every scan of the radar and issuing every tornado warning. And they were coordinating with us, storm spotters, emergency managers, and many other partners. I sat down with them after the outbreak to discuss it, meteorologist to meteorologist. Here's some of our conversation. We were seeing this several days out on the way leading up to the system. I think the SPC had day 7 out for us. Talk about how this event was very well predicted and what the first sign of concern for you all here at the Weather Service was.
Well, it is spring, so when we start to see the guidance start to indicate areas of enhanced instability, strong wind shear, as well as a stalled frontal boundary across the Mid-South, we start to get a little concerned, for the potential for severe weather and/or heavy rainfall.
From the get-go, we were expecting a long-duration event, and that's what we were trying to communicate to our partners, the public, on our social media platforms, that, hey, this is going to be a long-duration thing we're going to be dealing with here.
This system was more of a sort of a double-edged sword. Not only were we having to deal with the severe weather, which we get often this time of year, but we also had this generational flooding. We were looking at 10 to 15 inches of rainfall on top of the potential for large hail, damaging wind, and long track or violent tornadoes.
Mm-hmm. Day of, I know you sent out on NWS chat, big picture of all the staff that was here. What was staffing like, and how did you plan for people to be here around the clock for not just a long one-day, but multi-day event?
Here at the National Weather Service, we will surge staffing when we need to. We'll bring folks in, when there's high-impact weather that requires a lot of people here in the office. That night, we probably had around 10 people in the office, and that's almost like an all-hands-on-deck situation here for us.
And so when the day came, everything started very quickly. We had multiple concurrent storms almost right off the gate. Talk about how that impacted the warning process here at the Weather Service.
Well, I like to think sometimes as the warning process of being more of a controlled chaos. We're looking at the radar, we're anticipating what these storms are doing, and then we issue these warnings based on individual cells. Now, that doesn't always work best, especially in these environments like we just saw recently, where we have storm after storm after storm. And what you end up with are a lot of warning polygons stacked on top of each other.
As that severe thunderstorm warning is in effect for 60-mile-per-hour winds and 1-inch diameter hail. Embedded within that, though, is the tornado warning threat. We've got numerous warnings all overlapping.
With time, especially during these events where everything sort of ramps up at once, it can get a little cluttered and a little hectic at times.
I remember late on Wednesday night, there were areas like Selmer, like Middleton, I think Hebron, Grand Junction. They were in multiple warnings in sequence, not just an overlap.
A lot of time the recovery effort begins immediately, and there's people out there, and yet people outside in an environment that's already been compromised, and then another severe storm's coming their way. We want to give people an abundance of time to prepare and make some decisions on how they're going to navigate the secondary threat coming through as well.
Early on, there was a little sort of backwards rotation. It looked like there was some anticyclonic tornado or whatnot. I asked just like hey, is this what you're seeing? And one of y'all responded at that point of, can't really say, just warn. And I remember that just as like a standout moment of some of the messaging at the start of this was just warn people.
That first day on April 2nd, that Wednesday, that is a red letter day, high impact, all hands on deck. That's a level 5 out of 5. Those aren't issued very frequently. Those are rare occurrences, and we wanted to make sure people understood the severity of the situation, that these storms were going to be rotating. They were going to be capable of producing violent long track tornadoes, and we wanted people to get into their safe place as quickly as possible and give people enough time to do so, because that is our mission here at the Weather Service, to protect life and property, and we wanted to give people adequate time to get to their safe place to give themselves the best chance of riding out the storm.
It was a really good conversation to just sit down, meteorologist, and get to sort of talk about the real deep weeds of it, but also to just hear how humble they were after the event. Of course, they have a job to do, and they know that they are going to do it well, and they did a fantastic job that whole night. I mean, we were talking to them consistently through the night, and they were always answering questions, giving support, giving guidance on just what we need to start focusing on.
Yeah, and I don't know if many people realize what all the National Weather Service does. Not only are they issuing every warning that night, which we had hundreds at times, they're also collecting storm reports, talking to emergency management, talking to media. And as you heard, only 10 people in the office. They have a pretty small crew, but they do an incredible job, and they no doubt save lives. I remember last year I posted on my Facebook, Memphis, you have some incredible meteorologists working for you. That day, it didn't matter what TV station you were at, who you worked for. We had a job to do, and I will tell you, we have some very, very remarkable people over there at that National Weather Service office.
And another remarkable thing, too, is they went out the next day on April 3rd and started doing the preliminary damage surveys of, we got, I think Lake City was reported as EF3 right away, Selmer, I think, as well. And they were out there. Then they had to get called back because we had the second wave of severe on April 3rd.
It was unprecedented. Multiple days of storms. And, we're just kind of getting started recapping this. A year ago, this was day one, but we have several more days and several more communities that were impacted too.
And we're going to hear from the National Weather Service again coming up next week right here on ABC 24 Weather Impact Now, so be sure you tune in for that.
Yep.
Today we conclude our look back to the April outbreak of 2025. An astonishing 35 tornadoes struck the Mid-South in the span of 4 days, but well over 100 more hit multiple states during the event. The first day of the outbreak, the storms continued well past midnight. At 1:20 a.m., a new situation developed. A tornado emergency had been issued for parts of North Mississippi and Southwest Tennessee, being the second tornado emergency issued by the NWS. It was right when an EF3 was bearing down on Grand Junction when their communications went down. And so during one of those tornado emergencies, around 1:20 or so on April 3rd in the morning, that was when data communication was interrupted from the National Weather Service to us and other partners. First off, what happened, and what did you all do to maintain seamless warnings as best you could?
We believe that the outage was caused by a lightning strike, and that caused the data communications from NWS Memphis as well as the radar in Millington to be lost to the public. However, the National Weather Service in Memphis never lost communication with the radar, and we were able to see the data in real time despite the fact that it was not making it out to third-party vendors.
That was candidly, that was a pretty scary moment when we were like,
absolutely.
Okay, it's been 5 minutes, because I'd noticed there was about a 2 or 3 minute delay. I was like, okay, they're probably like just scanning up because it was obviously a violent tornado, and sometimes you just scan higher to see how high that debris is going, but later and later it got more and more delayed. I'm growing more concerned with this as it's just not updating the radar site. We still haven't gotten, in the last several minutes.
Unfortunately, what that means is we no longer have radar data, and there's no way around that.
We reached out on Slack and got the information that Shreveport was taking over.
Well, the National Weather Service has 3 levels of backup. So in other words, we have it set up so that Little Rock, Nashville, or Shreveport can take over our operations at a moment's notice. And we don't really plan for that to happen, but we're trained for that to happen. So when we give them a call, if we say, hey, we need you to provide service backup for us for a moment, we are down at the moment and we cannot get our communications out. Fortunately, in this instance, we were only offline for about 10 minutes, and Shreveport was never required to issue any products or statements on our behalf.
Mm-hmm. I remember just the hearing myself say it was kind of chilling, but I think it was that second one around Middleton. Middleton had just had a near pass of a tornado. We didn't know where it had gone, but I was just calling them out, saying like, you may have just experienced a tornado. You might have gotten another alert on your phone. It's not an error. It's a new warning.
Yep.
Middleton, again, if you can, go back to your shelter. If you do not have shelter after the previous tornado, find a neighbor who does have shelter who you can stay with and possibly ride out a near pass of another tornado.
We experienced this back in 2023 with the March 31st event. We had, I believe it was a couple places out in McNairy County that had a tornado track cross the previous tornado track. We had two tornadoes within about 2 or 3 hours impact pretty much the same locations. The tornado paths kind of cross tracks there. So it can happen in this area. We've seen it before, and it could possibly happen again as well.
What are some things that people need to keep in mind the next time we have a severe event?
So we live in the Mid-South. We live in a very active region for severe weather. Take the time now to be thinking about what are you going to do for that next severe weather event. Where's your safe place in your house or at your place of work or at school? Be thinking about those type of things. Have your severe weather plan ready to go when that next time comes, because there will be a next time. We will continue to have severe weather here across the Mid-South.
Our appreciation goes out to the National Weather Service and to everyone who went into keeping those people informed through those days. Also, thank you to everyone who has given us time to sit with us through interviews, take us through the aftermath of those storms. Our hearts go with everyone who are still working to recover. You can watch our special 1 Week in April on our streaming platforms.